Welcome back to Two's Company, Three's a Podcast. It's that time of the week where we step aside and talk about some stuff for YouTube only. So head on over to Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube for our regular 2 episodes every week. Movies, TV shows, and gaming podcast topics where we review movies and stuff.
Big summer blowout. Now, last week, the YouTube exclusive was taken by... I took the reins and I ran with the ball and I took charge and I talked about sitcoms, which isn't Dylan's forte, but...
Grab the bull by the nuts.
Yes, grab the bull by the nuts and lay an egg like a chicken.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, last week, I took the reins and talked about sitcoms. Dylan isn't much of a sitcom expert, but this week, Dylan's taking the reins on a topic that I am not well adversed at.
Absolutely. This week, I'm going to take a stab at talking about some, not all, some of my favorite video games from a long time ago up until now. Now, exclusively leaving out anything from the Doom franchise. Now, reason being, anybody who knows me and who's listened to previous episodes, go back to Two's Company, Three's a Podcast on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. I fucking love Doom until the end of the earth.
As your arm suggests.
Yeah, and I could talk about that franchise until the fucking cows come home, went out and came back again several times over. So I will be leaving out any Doom entries in this list. That'll be saving for another video. But now...
So how many are you going to tackle today?
I'm going to be tackling 5 video games which, not in any particular order, but have... not necessarily changed my life at one point or another, but definitely had an impact on my love for video games growing up. Now, first on the list is a video game I discovered a very long time ago with the second video game console I ever owned. First one was an Atari from the 80s.
That's a ways back.
I don't know whose it was before mine, but somehow me and my brother got it. But then
I feel like it was your dad's.
I think it was my pop's, actually.
Okay. Oh, damn, he was a gamer.
Yeah,
Love it.
so first up on the list is a video game called FZero X. FZero X is a
FZero X.
FZero X. It was what's a Nintendo 64 exclusive game. I discovered this back when we discovered our Nintendo 64 when I was 7. It's a futuristic racing video game only on the Nintendo 64, featuring characters like Falcon, who's been a part of the Super Smash Brothers team.
Yeah, right.
There's a whole bunch of like colorful characters and different machines, but essentially it's a racing game.
Yeah,
I'm not big on racing games, but this... It's not cars. They're like little spaceships that go around big, colorful tracks with an amazing metal, like Japanese metal soundtrack behind it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's absolutely stellar. Like I used to download and like the soundtrack, like back when I first started driving, I had an old 1991 Corolla. You'll remember that car.
I remember the boot fondly.
And it had a sub in the boot.
Yes.
And I used to crank the soundtrack of this game quite loudly, and it still holds up today to the technicality that like most modern sort of energetic metal has. So very bright and colorful, very fast pace. Yeah. And there's like certain powers you can accumulate. You can like heal yourself you can knock other people off the track as well. Yeah. It's just super fast. It's fucking lightning speed for a console of that era. Yeah. And it's crisp as well. Like there are other racing games like Formula 1 and Star Wars Pod Racing, which are fast, but they're a bit hard to see. They're a bit hard to get a handle of. Yeah. This is just as crisp as they can possibly be for the console. So
that's awesome.
FZero X, for all the fans out there, there are other F-Zero games in the franchise. The one prior to this came out on the Super Nintendo, which I haven't had the chance to play, but it is old as school as
Do you own a Super Nintendo now?
I do, yes, absolutely.
So,
but not the mini re-released version that has preloaded games. I own a genuine Super Nintendo, which I do have Earthworm Jim, Doom, Terminator, a few great games on there. That's a video for another day.
Yes.
But as I said, FZero X is an amazing game. My brother Connor, he'll vouch for me on this one. But my next on my list is a game not intended for children.
Okay.
And the remaining ones on my list are not intended for children, but they're all games that I did play as a child. Next on my list is a game which Mum revealed one day she was going to rent from our local Video Easy to bring home because the box art looked kind of cute. Yeah. Until she read the rating, MA 15+.
Oh, Lord.
This is a game called Conkers Bad Fur Day.
Oh, my God.
Have you heard of this?
Yes, I have heard of it. The box art, like you said, it stands out in mine and does look quite friendly.
Yes. So Conker is like a Nintendo character from like the early 90s and such who was family friendly until the development of this game. There may be some history elements I may get wrong here, but this game was intended to be for kids, and during development they said, fuck that. The opening scene of this game, you're walking out of a pub after a big night and you're hungover as fuck. Your first mission is to find some, aspirin.
Oh my God.
And to try and kill the hangover. And then you're trying to find your way home. The final boss, you're in a mech suit going up against a xenomorph.
Okay.
But between the opening and the ending of the game, you go to World War with, teddy bears, and it's violent. There's a multiplayer, which is really cool, where it's literally warfare.
Yeah.
For a Nintendo game, this was one of my earliest introductions into visceral violence.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I adore this game for it, because you can choose either squirrels or teddies. And this was also one of my very first horror experiences as well. This game's got it all, man.
Right.
So you've got your comedy, you've got your adultery, you've got your zombie horror, and you've got your Saving Private Ryan in Conkers Bad Fur Day. It's a long game for 2001.
Yeah.
On the Nintendo 64. It's a very crisp game.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the Great Mighty Pooh?
Maybe not the one you're about to reference, but...
So there's an enemy in the game where you fight him with toilet paper, and he's called I am the Great Mighty Pooh, and I'm going to throw my shit at you.
Wow.
This game changed my fucking life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where you get your toilet humor from.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, so Conkers Bad Fur Day.
Yeah.
Definitely not made for kids, but it kind of looks like it.
I was going to say, I keep looking at that box art, and I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Towards the end, there's also a great Matrix theme leveled where you're acting as Neo walking through a bank, and you know the moment in the Matrix where he's walking through the bank just shooting everybody in slow motion?
Yeah.
You're doing that. And he's got the leather jackets on, he's got the minigun, the Uzis. Oh man, this game has it all. So if you want a game that has a multitude of different genres that plays off all of the popular franchises from the 90s and 2000s, Conkers Bad Fur Day is the game for you.
Now, I know you do own a Nintendo 64. Do you have a copy of this?
All of the games on my list I was going to bring out and reveal that I do own them all. I have hard copies of all of these games.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But during editing, I'll just put the clips in and such.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Next on my list was a hard choice, because it is a horror game. And as of recent history, there has been a re-release, a reboot, remake, if you will, of a game in this franchise, but I want to take it back to where it all began for me personally. This game is going to be a lot of people's favorites in terms of not old school, but sort of their entry into horror.
Yeah.
And that's Resident Evil 4.
Resident Evil 4.
Now, this is going to be no surprise to anybody. This is the character of Leon S. Kennedy, who we were introduced to in the original Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 2 told the story of his first day on the job in Raccoon City as a cop. Turns out he turns up the day that the virus outbreak happened in Raccoon City.
Okay.
Resident Evil 4, number of years later, he's sent to a Russian village, which has been overtaken by the Las Plagas virus, essentially, trying to find the president's daughter, which you do and eventually find.
Yeah.
But this
Is she already dead?
No, you actually get to play as her for a short while.
Oh, okay.
Directed by the original Resident Evil creator Shinji Mikami, who's known for Resident Evil. He has also done The Evil Within. He's doing Tokyo Ghoul, I think. No, Tokyo something rather. Ghost of Tokyo, some sort of new horror. Anyway, he's famous in the horror franchise, but this was the first over-the-shoulder third-person Resident Evil game. Yeah, and there's one particular enemy in this game which stands out to me. Not the chainsaw guy who has a bag over his head, which horrified the fuck out of me when I first played this game.
Yeah. Oh, I can see him.
In the box art. He's right nasty. There. Yeah.
Yep.
I first played this game on PlayStation 2, and I think that's the best way to play it, because old school games on older consoles I find more horrifying because they're more pixelated. The graphics aren't as good. I find that scarier.
Yeah.
That's why I find a lot of older horrors better than a lot of modern horrors, because they affect me more. Maybe it's a nostalgic thing, but there's an enemy in this game called the Iron Maiden.
Ooh.
And there's another one prior to that, which is very similar, called the Regenerator. Okay. Essentially, you don't realize these things are near you until all of a sudden you're in this facility and you hear like this really creepy, gross sound. All of a sudden, there's this big, fat, sort of lanky, grotesque thing just slowly slowly lumping towards you.
Kind of like Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark?
Kind of like that, yeah. But this, like, you can't kill it.
Oh.
Only in a very specific way you can. Unless you've got unlimited bullets, which you don't. You really have to manage your inventory in this game.
Yeah.
The Iron Maiden version of that enemy, once he grabs you, he pulls you in, and spikes just go poof, straight out of him.
Oh, fuck.
Impaling you, killing you instantly.
Oh, God.
And as a 13-year-old kid, it horrified the shit out of me.
Yeah, right.
It was released in 2005 on GameCube, PS2. I'm not sure about PC.
Was multi-platform?
Yes, more multi-platform at the time. GameCube as well, but it's been re-released and re-edited and redone for modern consoles, and it is perfection.
Yeah.
But nothing beats going back to the original consoles and playing it at that low-resolution graphics and fumbling with the controls that weren't so great at the time, and it's horrifying. But next on my list...
I just wanted to say, Shinji Mikami, that game you were thinking of, Ghostwire Tokyo.
Ghostwire Tokyo, yes. He announced that at this year's 2019 E3.
Yes.
Where the presenter, some young, hip, exciting Asian lady, was very excited, and a lot of people thought that was the best part of the show because she was like, he's spooky, and it was very adorable.
Yes.
Anyway, next on my list...
Second last on the list.
Yeah, second last on my list of favourite games of all time, or top few favourite games of all time. I was going to say,
there's going to be another list, that's for sure.
Yeah. This game introduced me to a franchise which was essentially made to be Resident Evil, but they didn't own Resident Evil, and they still don't, so they decided to do it in space.
Okay.
Yeah. This is a game called Dead Space 2.
All right.
Now, the reason the second one is on my list and not the first or the third, because the third one took a big dive into cinematic action pieces, wasn't as honed in, wasn't as good. The first one, I didn't get to experience first. So it was Dead Space 2 that made me fall in love with this franchise. There's spin-off movies, which are animated movies, which are great, and they tie into the story of the games. And there's also a book, which I tried to read. It was rubbish. But the game itself, you're playing as a protagonist named Isaac Clarke. Now, the big opening level in Dead Space 2, you are in a straitjacket, mental asylum. You're suffering from mental issues where you're seeing visions of your ex-wife in really horrific ways. So, essentially, you escape. You get attacked by things called necromorphs, which are alien beings, which is essentially where they've infected humanity with, like, grotesque growths coming out of them, turning them into alternative monsters from these things that they... I could talk about the lore of Dead Space, but I won't, because I could talk about that for a while. They planet crack and they pull out artifacts from the Earth and...
Planet crack?
Yeah. But this game was horrifying. The graphics are really good. The sound design is stellar. It's simple in its premise, where it tells you where to go pretty much at all times because it's a very open-ended levels, but there's things to do here and there.
Yep.
But you play as Isaac Clarke, who is literally your everyman. He's an engineer who was sent to a spaceship called the Ishimura in the first one, just to find out what the fuck was going on.
Yeah.
Got caught up in all of this, and now it's playing with his mind. So Dead Space 1...
Yeah.
Isaac Clarke as the main protagonist was more scary because he didn't speak and you spent most of your time alone. It was very claustrophobic and very horrifying. This one, he does speak.
Okay.
So that was where it started to downfall a bit because it started heading more towards, well, this is a big franchise. We could turn this into a movie one day. Talked about it. They never did it because Dead Space 3 failed.
Right.
And the company, Visceral Games, unfortunately... It kind of closed, but then they've gone on to make just Call of Duty spin-offs.
Yeah.
Which is kind of upsetting because this franchise deserves a reboot by a different company other than EA.
Yeah.
Because the third one was riddled with like microtransactions and all this online shit that it just didn't need. It's perfect as a single-player horror experience. Dead Space 2 is an amazing game. It came out on Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and Microsoft Windows back in 2011. Relatively old game by today's standards, but it still holds up. And the series itself is one of the best horror franchises on the planet, hands down.
Well, with the way Hollywood's going, I wouldn't be surprised to see if they did try and cash in on this as a film.
Well, see, they talked about this a long time ago, back when Dead Space 2 was at the peak of its popularity. And when Dead Space 3 was being announced, there was a live-action trailer. It looked really fucking cool.
Yeah.
And then the third one came out. I personally enjoyed it. But going back to it now, I'm like, this is where the whole EA greediness, this is where it began.
Yeah.
I was like, I can see it all here. Yeah. And that's why it sucked. Well, it doesn't suck. It's just not as good.
Yeah.
But moving forward.
Number one on this first list of many.
Number one on my few top favorite video game franchises of all time is a game that came out a number of years ago. Somehow I came across a copy for free. I think somebody gave it to me. It may have been my brother. It wasn't stolen. But it's made me fall in love with the franchise overall, and I've loved it ever since. This is a game called Hitman 2. Hitman 2 came out in 2018. But this Hitman 2, aptly named Silent Assassin, was the first Hitman 2, came out in 2002.
Okay.
First experience of me playing a game on PC, and it actually runs on anything. This is a really, really classic game. You can get it on PlayStation 2, Xbox Original, I believe, PlayStation 3, and all the modern consoles now. But this game was ridiculously difficult, but in the sense that it was simple in a way where the reason that the Hitman games took a bit of a dive and then came back to where they are now is by following the platform that this game set for the rest of the franchise.
Okay.
You are Agent 47. You have given up on your secret agent kind of lifestyle. I'm not going to get into how he got there.
Yeah.
But he's dragged back into the ISA, like the world of being a hitman, after one of his best friends is essentially kidnapped and, asked for ransom. So he goes back into the business to earn the money to try and find the people and bring his friend back. Yeah. But essentially, the great thing about this game is that you've got these massive open levels and you can achieve your target and kill your targets, essentially, in any angle you want. You can go in guns blazing and blow everybody away. I play every Hitman game on the hardest difficulty first time playthrough every time because I take my time. I'd spend hours on a level analyzing every corner. One of the few games I do this to. Analyzing every corner, seeing all of the movement patterns and paying attention to everything. And somehow, I don't play games on higher difficulties very often because I suck at most games. But because I take my time, because of this fucking game, I beat it every time.
Well done.
First go, usually as well. Sometimes I might fuck up here and there and be like, okay, I know what to do next time. Yeah. But there's always a pattern. But Hitman 2 was such a difficult game where it didn't matter, unlike games these days where if you kill somebody you shouldn't, you lose points. Back then it didn't matter. You didn't have points. You weren't comparing yourself against, scores and things like that. This game was it was known for its difficulty. The Hitman game after it, called Blood Money, was probably the peak of the Hitman franchise before its recent reboot. Okay. Which I have a lot of love for. Yeah. But it was this game, Hitman 2 Silent Assassin, which really introduced me to the franchise. Yeah. And I've fallen in love with it. The Timothy Oliphant 2011, 10?
Oh, earlier than that.
Yeah.
I reckon
that movie, fair enough, the backstory of Agent 47 isn't what the original concept is. Yeah. But that movie's representation of Agent 47 is fucking spot on. Yeah. Agent 47, the reboot with Rupert Friend, rubbish. Absolute rubbish, and that's for another day. But Hitman 2 is on the top of my list this week for top 5 games that changed my life, changed my influence on gaming today, and I have my love for Hitman 2 to thank for my love for the Hitman games and for my love of spy, thriller, action games and movies.
And that's quite a lot of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that game's done you a very big favor, that's for sure. And absolutely. It was 2007, like I thought, with Hitman.
Yes.
Timothy Oliphant.
Because that movie came out after the sequel to Hitman 2, Blood Money. And that was featured in that movie as a bit of an Easter egg. It was very cool. There you go. But that's been our show for our YouTube episode this week. Thank you everybody for tuning in. If you've got a few favorites you'd like us to talk about, pop them down below in the comments. Also, head over to Facebook. We've got a very special Christmas giveaway at the moment. Mitch,
Jingle bells.
Fill them in.
Yes, absolutely. It'll be pinned to the top of the Facebook page right now where you get the chance to win one of 4 Event Cinemas gift cards, 2 valued at $50, 2 valued at $25. All you have to do is share that post and tag 3 friends. Simple as that. It'll be running until Sunday the 22nd of December, so make sure you get in quick.
Absolutely.
Winner will be revealed during the Christmas week of one of our slate of episodes, but we'll make sure to post that immediately.
Absolutely. And if you like what you saw here, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. You can find 2C3Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at 2C3Pod, of course.
That's right, and if you're watching this, that means, hey, are you listening to the podcast? Because we've got a podcast, 2 episodes every week. Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Big summer blowout.
You can support the show as well by buying a tiny bit of merch. You can buy a t-shirt, you can buy a mug, you can buy a hoodie, you can buy a sticker. if you want. All over at tpublic.com. You can actually get something out of, supporting the show, which is good, rather than just paying into a Patreon and getting nothing out of it that you already get for free.
And we don't have to keep spending our paychecks on free stuff for you guys. So you can send us an email, twoscompany3podcast@gmail.com.
Now, we've got 2 podcasts every week, every Wednesday and every Friday for all of eternity. So don't feel... Why do I keep saying that? Feel free to subscribe on all of those platforms.
Don't feel like you shouldn't. Because we also have 4 YouTube videos every week and you're watching one of them. So thank you. Make sure like, subscribe, and ring that bell.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for tuning in. This has been Two's Company, Three's a Podcast. My name is Dylan, as always, with my co-host,
Mitchell. And don't forget, we are Two's Company and you are the podcast. Thanks for tuning into that video by Two's Company, Three's a Podcast. Don't be sad though, there's plenty more where that came from. Another cheeky video right there. Maybe even hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. Or, if you don't like our faces, check us out on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube.